Good afternoon. I want to welcome some of my colleagues in local government. Ed Kosher from the City Council, Council President Peggy King.
Lisa's here.
I was looking for Councilmember Perazzo. Where is she?
Here.
She's in the back. There she is. Yep.
Vince Riggy's here.
Vince Riggy.
Councilman Vince Riggy. Junior Hightoll from the Board of Education. The chair of our county land bank and member of the county legislature, Bob Hoffman. And I appreciate everyone being here today for really a significant event. And it would not have happened.
Which jumped the gun a little bit.
It wouldn't have happened without a great United States Senator, and more importantly, a great friend of the city of Schenectady, Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Mayor. It's great to be here. I want to thank all my colleagues in government, Mayor McCarthy, our folks from HUD, our City Council President, all the council members, and the people we're doing this for more than anybody else, the residents of the Bellevue neighborhood. Raise your hands, folks, so we can applaud you. Thank you. The neighborhood lady, she said, I'm a neighborhood lady. I said, so am I, a neighborhood guy. Okay, and I want to thank our police and fire and everybody else. This is not going to work. How's that? Is that interfering with your sound cameras? Do it a little lower. Great. Is that good? We don't need it. Shut it off. That's better. I think we're better this way. Yeah. Okay. So you may remember, 11 months ago, we stood in front of this very building and promised to get federal funding to take it down and 79 more buildings like it in the Bellevue neighborhood. Only 11 months. And we were here saying this building had to come down and 79 more to get the Bellevue neighborhood going again. Well, we worked hard, the mayor and I, and here we are, and the building, in anticipation of us knocking it down, began to collapse this morning as the bulldozers came close and bumped into them a little bit. Today we begin a very important project for the city of Schenectady. The demolition of abandoned, blighted properties in Schenectady in order to clear the way for redevelopment. There are more than 130 abandoned... Whoa, tell him to stop. Wait a second. He better not... He's going to tear it down his way. There are more than 130 abandoned and derelict sites in Schenectady that have choked neighborhood rejuvenation for years. They sap local resources, scare away businesses, hinder job growth, and pose a grave danger to our firefighters and our police officers. This neighborhood, the Bellevue neighborhood, is a wonderful home to both working families and businesses. Last year, I stopped at Broadway Lunch and had a couple of hot dogs. The owner, Mr. Menagius, and some of the customers told me they were specially concerned that this eyesore at 2033 Broadway could start to corrode the whole neighborhood. And we know how it works. Once there's one abandoned building, first, it could become a home for drug addicts and criminals. Second, it's an eyesore and makes the whole neighborhood. It brings the whole neighborhood down. If you leave these abandoned buildings standing there, they can ruin a beautiful neighborhood, and that's what was beginning to happen to the Bellevue neighborhood. Like the proverbial apple, the people in this community were afraid this building and buildings like it could spoil the whole bunch. The mayor told me what residents and business owners in Schenectady already knew. The properties are not just eyesores, they're inhibiting economic development. We all know the story, the massive downsizing by GE, the closing of American Locomotive between the 50s and 70s resulted in Schenectady losing 25,000 jobs. Many of these homes, owned by GE and Alco employees, became vacant and fell into disrepair over the years. Properties like the one behind me and at least 130 others devalue the whole neighborhood. You can have a perfectly good house, you can work hard at keeping it up, But if you're on the same street or even in the same community of abandoned buildings, your property values go down and all your hard work goes down the drain. They also cost the city a bunch of money for constant debris removal, inspections, policing. These buildings are structurally unsound. It's dangerous for our police officers. Many of them catch on fire. Dangerous for our firefighters. Fire first responders will tell you the sites are dangerous. They provide a haven for drug peddlers and users. They're often the most likely target for arson. And when our firefighters report to the scene of a crime or a fire, a structurally deficient property increases the risk of injury. So, I love coming to Schenectady. I'm utterly amazed and proud of how great downtown looks compared to how it looked 15 years ago when I took office. It just gives me joy to walk in downtown Schenectady and see how it came back. And I worked hard, along with this mayor and others, county executives, local elected officials, to make sure that happened. We got lots of federal funds, and there were lots of other things we did as well, including keeping businesses staying there. We can do the same thing here. We can't just revitalize downtown and forget about our neighborhoods. So why not go in and rehab properties? You said rehab costs far outweigh property value and leaves demolition the most attractive. Oh, I skipped some points here. Bottom line is, so it looks so much better, and we got to go and restore other neighborhoods, and that's what we're doing in Bellevue. Now, some people ask, just rehab them. Don't tear them down. That is very expensive, would take too long, and the whole neighborhood will go down the drain. This is a good neighborhood. Once this building is down, someone will be interested, a business, a homeowner, a builder, in building something new here, once they have the property down. So, that's why we're all here today. Last year, we stood together and proposed a plan to demolish these sites and clear the way for new development and revitalization. We made it loud and clear. I called Secretary Sean Donovan that what Schenectady had planned to revitalize the buildings was a perfect match for a HUD loan. And since Schenectady was ready to get the project underway, we asked HUD to expedite the approval of the loan. It took a little while. HUD agreed. And today we're standing in front of the demolition of the first of the 80 buildings. It's a relief. Yes. It's a relief for many here in Schenectady and the beginning of a new chapter for this entire city. The project's been 1 year in the making, maybe a little longer than I'd wanted. We got to push that bureaucracy. But when layers of red tape threatened to delay this project after HUD approved it, we persevered, we worked with HUD, we worked with the mayor to break through the bureaucracy, and now it's done. So just like we're doing with these vacant properties, we work to tear down the bureaucratic walls standing in the way of this community moving forward. And I gotta tell you, I'm always impressed by Mayor McCarthy's can-do spirit and dedication to rehabbing these properties in residential neighborhoods all over the city. He and I worked hand in hand to get this over the finish line. But let me be clear, the money isn't just for demolition. In terms of the HUD loan, the terms of the HUD loan stipulate that 70% must be spent on projects that add value to surrounding properties. So the majority of the loan is going to go to redevelopment. So these spaces will not just be more of the same abandoned lots. They'll create real development in the city of Schenectady. 2.5 million of these funds will be used to raise, rehab, and develop these abandoned sites. 500,000 will be used to rehab 487 Knott Street into 14 units of housing, 8 of which will be affordable. So you can see, the loan's a real shot in the arm for Schenectady. It'll give this city the capital injection it needs to pursue large-scale renovation projects for these neglected properties. It'll remove blight and reintroduce the new properties and revamped spaces that'll boost the value and spirit of the entire community. Sometimes you need to tear down a building before you build back stronger. Today in Schenectady, that process begins. Thank you. Okay, Mayor. And then we're going to go over and I'm going to wave the flag. And they're supposed to start demolition. But first, we're going to have you, Mayor, speak. And the HUD person speak. And then there are other subjects, and certainly, I don't know who's Channel 10 here, but your New York City affiliate wanted me to say something to you too, okay, on some other subject.
Again, Senator, I cannot thank you enough for your perseverance in making this loan happen. Because there were some days where we all the time, we thought it was a good idea. Some days I wasn't quite sure that people in Washington quite got that, but you made the difference, made it happen, and are making a tremendous difference here in this neighborhood, in this community. And I just want to recognize some of my staff here who made this possible. Wayne Bennett, the Public Safety Commissioner, Chief Kilcullen, Chief Senecal from the Fire Department, Jacqueline Mancini, who's my new Development Director. Where's Chris Wallen, the City Engineer? All the people from Bellevue who've come out to make this, again, just reinforce that this is the right thing to do and is going to make such a big difference. Now I'd like to introduce Jamie Ferraro from HUD, who again has been a friend, a colleague in putting together our housing summit, working with Schenectady, so that we have a functional rapport with HUD that produces real results for the people that need them the most. Jamie, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Senator Schumer. What a great day to be in Schenectady. So I'll be brief so we can get on with the day's work. Why is this community on the upswing? Well, Mayor McCarthy's been able to make and deepen relationships in Washington and be able to have relationships with Senator Schumer, to have him roll his sleeves up and take an interest in Schenectady and be here to make sure that this project went along and the funding was there for it. So on behalf of Secretary Castro, we're very happy to be able to align some of our program resources to try and fund Mayor McCarthy's vision and your vision for this city and for this neighborhood. So we're just really happy to be here, and we'll continue to be here in Schenectady working with you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, wait, before we do that, I'm going to do let's do questions on this subject, then we'll do the other subjects, then we'll go wave the flag and get the bulldozer working. Okay? Is that all right? Because of the rain, rather than go back and come back in. Yep.
Could you talk a little bit about the red tape and about what you did to bring
Yes.
that?
You know, HUD has a lot of these programs, and they take a long time. Now, this is a good program. It really has bang for the buck in terms of creating new jobs, creating new property value, creating new wealth. But they have you dot so many I's and cross so many T's, it just takes forever. So this was taking much too long. First, we had to get them to win the grant. Once they won the grant, it was taking too long. So finally, in exasperation, I called up the HUD secretary, Sean Donovan. I said, I want this done ASAP. And he sped the process along.
My understanding was that the requirement of the city to acquire the properties after getting the loan, is that accurate? That was how it was written, and it's sort of the bottom line? Am I making
We have acquired this site, so as part of that technical process, the city has ownership of the property.
Acquire them piece by piece. Yeah. They don't have to acquire them all at once. They got to acquire them piece by piece.
Okay, so the requirement was not that the properties
All had to
the
be.
city rolls after the loan is approved.
Obviously, when you're taking a process that takes a significant amount of time, it would be unreasonable to have them have the houses and have to hold these properties for over a year. So we're working with the city to make sure that they meet the qualifications of the loan criteria and are still around when the
The
funds get
solution
drawn.
was rolling. Instead of them buying all the properties first and holding them till they were all demolished, several at a time, demolish them, several more, demolish them.
Is that something that you think needs to be addressed on a larger scale?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, that they should do this. This was a particularly large project, 80 properties. Usually they're smaller, but for large projects like this, they ought to make a permanent change like that. Absolutely.
And the challenge is when you have someone that's innovating like the mayor's doing here and Schenectady's doing, you have to take a look at the way the regulations are written to address the new innovations.
You know, there are times when they didn't want to pay money for demolition. HUD didn't. They just said you got to do it, demolish and redevelop. But that's a two-step process as well, and we needed to convince them of that.
Perhaps a question best directed at the mayor. Back in August, we watched you demolish another building with money from the land bank. Can you give us an idea how the HUD loan and the land bank will kind of dovetail together with the renovation that the city is working on?
And again, we're fortunate to have Senator Schumer, Attorney General Snyderman, who've we've worked with to line up these funds so that we will be able to deal with the most distressed property. And really the only way to deal with it is demolition. And that creates value in the adjacent property. It creates opportunity for rebuilding properties. It creates possibility for parks, community gardens. You have to walk through the matrix of options, but we're in a position now where, having worked with HUD, again with the leadership of the Senator, with the Attorney General, through our land bank, through the efforts that the city is doing on its own. And as you look around here, we have realtors, bankers, community leaders who are part of this overall undertaking. And I feel so fortunate to be mayor of the city at this time, where people are working together, and it doesn't happen as fast as we like, but we are seeing real results here. You look at the downtown of this community, it is a transformational undertaking that people use as an example now across New York State, and we're going to set an example for the redevelopment of our neighborhoods, that people will look across the state to see how we're doing it here in Schenectady.
Other questions on this subject?
All 80 properties are in Bellevue?
No, they're actually throughout the city, and we will match that up with the land bank and with the 108 loan to get the most bang for the buck for each one that we do.
Yes.
This
Be available for development.
Would you like to make an offer?
It'll be you'll have these. You have very valuable land in a good part of the city, and it can be someone hopefully will buy it and redevelop either a home or a store or a business, depending on the zoning.
Yeah, we look at the first thing is the adjacent property owners. We talk to them to see what they would like to do, and there's a matrix of options where we work through each site. In the scattered site development requires more administrative review to make sure that you end up with a utilization that creates, again, the greatest value in the neighborhood.
Okay, let me talk on the subject I was asking.
Angelo, come on. Angelo Menashes from.
Great. Thanks, Angelo. Good, good, good. All right, now, are they ready? You ready? All right, here we go. We love this. All right, here we go. Let's go.